Hello and welcome to the Home Assistant Podcast. This is episode 2022.3. As usual, my name is Rohan Karamandi, and I am joined by the one and only Mr. Phil Hawthorne.
Hey, Rohan.
This episode is sponsored by Home Assistant Cloud by Nabu Casa. Easily access your local Home Assistant instance remotely for a small monthly fee that supports the Home Assistant and ESP home projects. Configuration is done by the user interface, so there's no fiddling with router settings, SSL certs, or any other YAML.
2022.3, huh? So March already. I guess second release for the year.
I know. So it's gonna be interesting. Yeah. So it is a second because there wasn't a January release. All right. So first and foremost, there is a Home Assistant newsletter. So if you don't always get a chance to read their blog, or even if you don't catch every episode of our podcast, we'll try not to judge for that one. But
that's it.
And even the Home Assistant team puts out the release party episodes and such. So now you can catch the highlights right in your inbox.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I guess the other Home Assistant news as well. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
And speaking of other, newsletters and stuff that came out, we also had our first episode of the All Things Smart Home. So episode 1 is out on YouTube. You can catch it there. We did our first live stream on YouTube and Twitch. I think it went pretty well actually, as our first sort of test episode. Yeah.
Yeah, which is awesome.
We had it was quite a bit of fun, and I think we'll definitely as we try and grow that and keep going, we'll definitely have another episode coming out soon.
Yeah, 100%. And if you didn't get a chance to watch it, check it out. It's on YouTube. Unfortunately, the Twitch part did not record as intended, so check it out on YouTube. We'll leave a link.
Yeah. And
on to some Nabu Casa news. They now have two new employees as well. So Zach and Mike. And Zach was on quite a while ago in 2019 on episode 42. So, glad to see the two of them joining and, working on the product as well. So, and Mike will be focusing on extending, improving Home Assistant, like supervisor stuff and a lot of the ecosystem pieces there as well. And Zach's more focused on things like the Home Assistant YouTube channel and so on and so forth as well. And I thought Zach was doing some other work on the Home Assistant code base as well, but maybe.
Yeah, I think there's been some work with like the front end and all that as well.
Yeah, a ton of stuff on the front end, I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. I know Bram's been doing some stuff there too, but always good to get more people on the project,
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So new features coming out in this release. And I think one of the big ones, if you're using the automation UI, one of the big one is going to be the Media Selector and the Play Media action. So there's a whole new interface when you're building out an automation on how to choose music to be played in that across your device. So it's actually really cool. You now basically get a dialog window that asks you, what do you want to do? You want to play the media? Where do you want to play it? So what speaker and what source do you want to play it from? And it actually uses the artwork of the source. So, like the radio station cover art or the CD cover art of the music that you want to play. Yeah, it looks quite nice. And I think it'll be very useful for those that are using the automation builder in the UI.
Yeah, that's awesome. And speaking of that too, there's more media sources you can choose from as well. So you can even choose things like cameras and even Lovelace dashboards to be played on a player, right? So you can use the new Play Media action or Play Media action to tell Home Assistant to basically go open up your Lovelace dashboard on a Google Nest device or camera feed on a TV, something like that. And on top of that, there's also DLNA support as well. So that's actually really, really neat.
So the DLNA media server, I think that's a new integration for this release. And then Frank went out and created a whole new, like that radio browser integration.
Yeah.
Which is just gives you like a whole list of countries, and then you go ahead, choose your radio station that you want to listen to, and it finds the stream online, and bam, you can play it on the supported speaker.
Yeah, which is amazing. So makes life that much easier.
Yeah, I was actually surprised at how many stations there are available that they can then just be played, I guess.
Yeah.
From a stream somewhere. Now, Rohan, talking about this, the media selector and these media sources, have you, like, because this year I started from scratch, a whole new Home Assistant instance, new house, new Home Assistant instance. I've got, virtually no automations running. So I've been finding myself creating a few automations from the automation UI as opposed to YAML. And I've always been. Have you used the automation UI? Like, is it something that, have you got a mix between yourself? Like, have you got like half YAML, half in the UI? What's your sort of breakdown?
So I moved pretty much everything to Node-RED, except for like just basic stuff like setting a default theme, and all my webhook stuff is still in YAML.
Yep.
Other than that, everything is moved to Node-RED now.
Right. Yeah, because I'm really liking the ability to create automations from my phone. I'm sitting on the couch and go, wouldn't it be cool if the TV would, the lights under the TV would turn on when the TV turns on, right? And now I can go in and go ding, bang, right? It gets a bit tricky doing some advanced, conditions, like if I want to do like the whole, this is an AND condition block, there's your OR conditions, and nesting all those conditions. It gets slightly tricky that way. That's probably not ideal for the phone, screen. But yeah, otherwise, I'm slowly, I see that for some basic automations, there is there's some definitely pros to having it in the UI that I can then just go in and edit on the fly.
Yep.
I can always export them to YAML as well if I want to, move them over, I guess.
Yeah, and then if you want to at least you can build your base on there and then export it to YAML and then build on top of that if you want to, right?
That's a good point. Yeah, that's not bad.
But I do though, for the YAML piece, I do really like the Visual Studio or the VS Code add-on.
Absolutely.
Because it's got like basically a macro where you type like automation or whatever and fills in like all of the in between actions and so on and so forth, and so it works really well. If you haven't tried it, definitely play with it.
Well, something that is finally in this release that I've thought that should have been here quite some time ago is now the ability to upload files directly to Home Assistant.
Yeah.
So I have used uploaded files in Home Assistant for quite some time. I've had, small media bytes, like recorded text-to-speech messages to go out across my Sonos speakers, and also, just pictures of little icons to be in my Lovelace dashboard. Previously, you had to upload them to a www directory in your config folder, and if you were using the Home Assistant OS, you would, or like a Raspberry Pi or a Home Assistant Blue, you would have to have the Samba add-on to be able to access files. But now there is local media management, or I should say initial support for local media management.
Yep.
So you can upload and remove files from within Home Assistant. And I assume they will be slowly building that on as releases come along.
Which is awesome. Have you played with it yet? Is it just the www directory, or is it?
Really.
More than that?
Yeah, it's just very pictures and some images. It's very basic at this stage.
Got it.
Yeah.
The UI is actually moving to Material Web Components. So there's a couple of changes UI related in this release. And so if you're familiar with the old style of like the quote unquote paper style components, those are being moved to Material Web Components. So things like input boxes and dropdowns will be the first to get changed. So you'll notice that. But as a accessibility bonus, it's that also makes it a lot more friendlier for screen readers and things like that. So that I think is a great addition there. There's also a new date picker when you select the date in the front end, which is just really neat too. So just as a side note there.
Yeah, that's cool. I think moving to Material Web Components is going to be, I think the paper style is being deprecated. Yeah. So, you're going to have to move over eventually, right?
Yep.
So, and this makes it more consistent and will eventually allow some more fun things in the future, I think. So, really cool.
So nothing wrong with that.
Now, Rohan, we were just talking before about the VS Code add-on in for Home Assistant, but there's actually a new feature in this release, and it's autocomplete entity IDs in the front-end code editor.
Nice.
So if you're using the YAML editor within Home Assistant, it can now autocomplete entity IDs for you. So you can start typing in a light.bedroom and it will fill it out for you from within the front end. But yeah, definitely if you're using YAML and you're editing in VS Code, then definitely grab that add-on. It's
100%. Completely worth it. Trad-free. So IKEA Trad-free integration has a bunch of work done to it too. So stability issues and such are better, or you should have better luck with that. Things like battery sensors are now available, and also support for air purifiers. So, which is great. So if you're in the IKEA ecosystem, then that will be great.
Didn't know they had a purifier. That's cool.
Yeah, I actually looked at it, but maybe I'm confusing it, but I didn't think it had the best reviews, like in terms of actually like as a purifier. I think as a device it worked well, but yeah.
Okay, cool.
Let's talk about some new stuff.
Yeah, so new integrations. So the first one is called 5M, which allows players to play the game Grand Theft Auto 5 by Rockstar Games online with other players. So this is one of those
so specific.
So specific. It's one of those integrations where I'm like, really? Okay, this is cool about the open source community, right? Like if someone wants it in Home Assistant, they can build it and put a pull request in, and sure enough, it's accepted. So, and now if there's anyone else that plays Grand Theft Auto 5, the 5M integration lets you receive information from a 5M server, and I'm guessing it will tell you when your friends are online or who's online, how many people are playing online. Very, very specific, but it's in there.
That's cool. Pure Energy. So apparently they build a product that kind of lets you read a lot of the data from your smart meters that have a serial port.
Yep.
So things like energy consumption, power flow, so on. And so that's now in Home Assistant from that perspective. And energy is spelled ENERGIE in case there's any confusions.
Well, that will help some people get some data into the energy dashboard. That'll be good.
Yeah. How's your energy dashboard look? Is there a ton of stuff you do with it, or?
Well, so because I've just moved into a new house, I had to wait for a bill before I could get my meter number off the company, like the electricity company, and now I've got to go through the whole. So I have a Rainforest Eagle, which connects via all our smart meters down here in Australia, or at least in the state of Ohio and Victoria, are like Zigbee based.
Okay.
So I've got a Rainforest Eagle that I will have to then request from the power distributor to pair with my Rainforest, and then I should be able to get the data flowing into Home Assistant again.
Very cool.
So hopefully I can get that working pretty soon. I think I just got my first bill at summer here. I've been using the air conditioner too much, so I wasn't pleased with the bill itself, but at least I've got the meter number now, so I'll add that to my to-do list. Have you got anything running in yours? Yeah.
I don't. I mean, I have very little stuff that actually generates power information.
So no like smart switches or plugs that are reading energy.
Yeah. I had a couple, and those were, one of my Wemos did that, and I ripped it out because you can listen to my rant on the YouTube link we'll provide. But yeah, it just so right now I don't have a whole lot in terms of that.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's one or two things that would provide me some information, but honestly, I don't look at it ever.
Cool.
Just again, I do think it's really cool, and I do want to do this. I think I was talking to somebody I work with just to be like, hey, I want to look at actually monitoring how much I use and so on and so forth. But it's not as easy because again, my meter is fairly closed. So it's basically you got to trust the provider from a meter perspective, and the rest is I have to do like passive monitoring or whatever per breaker. So yeah.
Is your meter like attached physically to your house, or is it down the street? Or?
I actually don't know. It's attached to my house. It's on the outside of my house, but I don't know like from a reading perspective if it has any smarts in it. I don't believe it does.
Right. Yeah.
But I might be wrong there. And if it does, they almost definitely don't open it up. So
yeah. Because I think you could even get some of those like things that clip on the lines, over the lines, and then just like read the power going
passive
through them.
meter.
Yeah.
I've also thought of, I mean, it's a lot more kind of silly, but I've also thought of putting a camera, like just a dummy, not a dummy camera, but like a tiny camera there, just to OCR and read the meter to tell me when it's going.
Yep.
But it's outside and I don't want to deal with that. So.
Especially with Canadian winter, right? You don't want to.
Yeah, with winter, well, and the thaw
after
the winter.
Yep.
I just don't trust myself to waterproof anything well enough. I mean, I guess enough silicone will do the job, but...
Yeah. So another integration coming in is the Wiz integration, WIZ. Mm-hmm. I was surprised. I thought Wiz had been in there before. It's a pretty popular integration, I would have thought. So lights and smart sockets are now supported. So they're supported. So they're set up through your Wi-Fi network. So you don't need a bridge or gateway or anything like that. And they should be available in Home Assistant.
Nice. ZWave.me lets you basically control the network via their product. And essentially it can run on various devices, including Raspberry. Spelled R-A-Z, berry. So very neat.
All right. Breaking changes. So as of this release, it is the final release which will support the legacy ZWave and OpenZwave integrations. Mm-hmm. So these integrations will be removed from 2022.4. If you want to continue using ZWave with Home Assistant, you need to move over to ZwaveJS. Now, I know being a ZWave user myself, that can be a bit scary, having to, potentially relink every device. There should be a migration available from either OpenZwave or ZwaveJS themselves. I think they're from the same project anyway.
Right.
So there might be a way you can migrate easily over. But the reason this is the final official supported release is that the OpenZwave library that Home Assistant uses will no longer be supporting the new versions of Python that Home Assistant is moving towards. So we need to drop support for that. So I've been using ZwaveJS via ZwaveJS to MQTT. There's another Docker container and it's been fantastic. Highly recommend.
Nice. And on that note, there might be some version bumps needed as well for ZwaveJS, even if you do use the container, right? Or even if you use the MQTT, ZWave's MQTT service. So
I think it's the very latest release. So just double check that you're running the latest and greatest. There is a service that's been deprecated for ZwaveJS, the ZwaveJS.ping service. There is new button entities that you can move your calls over to, which will essentially do the same thing.
Yeah. The updater integration has been deprecated as well. So it's been kind of replaced by other integrations. So even if it's no longer part of default config, and or if you have it explicitly defined, it's not going to work. So remove it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And the XP integration has been disabled due to a third-party library not being compatible with Python 3.10.
Yeah. Same like ZwaveJS.
Yeah.
Or sorry, not ZwaveJS. Same like
OpenZwave. Yeah. So Home Assistant is working towards adding support for Python 3.10, but they had to disable the integration now to be able to get our development and testing environments upgraded. So XP temporarily unavailable. Watch this space.
And really, that's it. It's a fairly short one.
Rohan, what's going on? Any fancy things going on in your smart home?
No, I've honestly not had time for home automation lately.
I know
it's really unfortunate. But I do want to, like I said earlier, the things that are on my mind is really around energy monitoring and things like that. Yeah, really, that's where my and just more around comfort and such too. So we just actually this morning got a whole home humidifier installed. So the technician, whatever contractor, came in and
nice.
Did his thing, and it got to the point where it was it was like just getting hard to breathe essentially every morning, just because especially in the winters when the heater is on and so on and so forth, it really dries everything out, right? So Got a humidifier, so let's see. But I want to see if there's any way to make that smart. I know there's smart ones available, but that's not what I got installed. So, let's see.
Is it like built, like the controller that they put in, is it like affixed into your wall? Like, are there smart humidifier controllers, like a Nest, for your thermostat that you could buy, sort of thing?
Yeah. So I actually know nothing about this. I believe there are.
Mm-hmm.
But even the controllers and stuff are so what's interesting is it gets powered via the HVAC system. So pretty much only when my Ecobee says, hey, go turn on the fan for the heat or like turn on the blower essentially, then only does this get turned on, from what I understand.
Okay,
that's kind of what he described to me. So I want to do a little more research on that because I have no idea, but essentially try and optimize a lot of that stuff, especially as costs of everything are going up, like hydro as an example, and whatever. But here in Ontario, it's interesting. They actually announced that I don't know if it's happening or what, but they want to try and do super low rates at night, like very, very off-peak hours.
And for your electricity.
Exactly, for the electricity. And again, hopefully, if that does happen, then maybe there's some stuff I can leverage there, and then I'll probably care more about just electricity monitoring or energy monitoring as a whole as well, right? Just to kind of optimize a lot of that kind of stuff.
That's interesting. So I signed up. So when we moved into this new house, I think it was maybe like December or November, the Home Assistant release had a component, Amber Electric, which was an Australian electricity company. Okay. So I signed up with them because they've got an API which integrates now with Home Assistant, and their whole thing is that they will send a notification to Home Assistant when there's a price spike. So so basically for a small fee, I get access to the wholesale electricity rates, which can then fluctuate depending on, how much renewable energy is in the grid, or how much electricity costs at that time. And so I get on the app I can see hour by hour what the forecast price is going to be, so I can see, all right, like at 3 a.m. it's going to cost me 15 cents a megawatt or whatever, but at 7 p.m. it's going to be like 30 cents, right? So that's pretty cool way to sort of shift like the electricity usage around. So hopefully like you would have access to something similar in Canada for that.
Yeah, as you were talking about that, I just pulled up the integrations page for energy, and first one that shows up was Amber Electric. But I don't see anything else that's that I have access to. So it's gonna suck. But at least for now, and again, if it comes down to it, I'm trying to avoid opening my panel. But worst case, I'll grab those the passive hook kind of connectors, and just stick those on my panel. But again, I'm trying to avoid that because I'd like a little more granularity than that, because again, the way at least my house was built at the time was, there's multiple outlets and stuff that go to a breaker, right? Even in the kitchen and stuff where, code has been updated and such, but now that's still not the case, right? So I want to know what's using it and things like that. So I may go to my big talkers. So things like my washing machine, things like my air conditioner and stuff like that, and monitor those instead, and just kind of go to focus on those guys rather than everything as a whole.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. How about you? How's the new place? How's the automating of the new place going?
So it's coming along slowly, unfortunately. I'm just taking my time. I got a whole bunch of recessed door window sensors that I was able to drill into the doors around the house. So those doors can now, I can see when those doors are open and close, and can't see the sensors there. So I'm very impressed with that. Yeah,
those are the AOTech ones?
Yeah, exactly. Nice. So they're very nice. And just currently researching light switches, which ones I'm going to get. I want to maybe start off with one room, just to maybe just the office here, see what how that looks, how they work, make sure I've got neutrals behind the switches. Can the lights be dimmed? Do I need to upgrade the lights so they can dim? It's just unfortunately it's just a lot to be done, and the bank balance doesn't agree with what I want to do. So
sure, well that's buying a house, right?
That's it.
Yeah, it sucks, but hopefully, yeah. Again, I think it's something you can also just slowly chip away at, right? Doesn't have to be
Exactly.
all overnight. So
That's it, and that's what makes it fun, right? But yeah, so because
yeah,
I obviously had a whole bunch of gear from our previous house, like a whole bunch of Philips Hue lights, smart sockets that I haven't put up yet. So that's also part of the fun too, right? So slowly bringing out all my toys and putting them around the house. So it's fun.
nice. Any interesting technologies? Like, are you is mostly just Z-Wave that you're sticking to? And
Yeah, ZWave, Zigbee are my go-to at the moment. I try to
yeah,
avoid Wi-Fi where I can. I think really the only Wi-Fi stuff I've got would be something like what do they call MyLight or Limitless LED for the
yeah.
entertainment unit. Yep. But anything else, I'm trying to really avoid Wi-Fi, so that will be reserved for like ESP and Raspberry Pis, basically.
Yeah, and even that you can probably throw on a separate SSID or something if your router supports it, right? So
Yeah, but it's not even that. I really like because I got a whole bunch of 2-year stuff.
Yeah.
And like the Dyson fan, and then there's some 2-year stuff that's there. I just having to hack, reverse engineer APIs, like the local Dyson APIs being like reverse engineered. The 2-year stuff is, you've got to you've got to find the local keys somehow. And
Yeah.
it's just with at least Z-Wave and Zigbee, it just works, right?
Yeah, and well, that's one thing I've learned, and I think that's what I like the most. So, I mean, I've talked about this before as well, where I got rid of my Wemos and opted to go with some Sonoff Zigbee ones, the S31 ZBs.
Yep.
For smart plugs, but like it's it's consistent and it works every time, right? So you don't have to worry about API, you don't have to worry about any of that kind of junk. It's just you plug it in, join it, and it's a standard, right? Which is nice.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, brand new Home Assistant instance. I've been just slowly adding things that I'm still using the default Lovelace view that Home Assistant ships with. So I'm finding stuff in there is becoming a right pain in the bum. Because everything's on just one page, right? It's all grouped into rooms, but I need to start working on that. I think that'll be my next mission.
Yeah. Are you, I know in your previous place, you'd mentioned a couple of times on the show about your tablets and such. Have you already put up tablets? Are you putting it up? Are you going to, cut a hole in the wall and stick it in there? Or what's the deal?
Undecided. I don't know. I've actually got a couple of brand new Amazon Fire HD tablets that are still sealed in their packets. Nice. That I didn't put up in the old house, and I am considering putting up here. I found in our old house the tablets only really got used by me, and they were really slow, like the Amazon Fire tablets. They're not, if you want to, you press a button and there's a bit of a lag for something to load or whatever. So it's not the best user experience, and I'm trying to decide what use case there could be. I think it's more going to be for quick glances of what the current status is. So, for example, one thing that I'm really missing at the moment is a notification of bin night. So, obviously, we're in a new house, so the day of week, right? Like, the night that the bins go out is different, and also the roster. It's still rotating every 2 weeks, but
right.
So one thing that I'm missing is just being able to glance at the tablet and see, okay, it's the recycling week this week. I got to put the yellow bin out this week, for example.
Right.
So I think that's sort of the thinking I'm going towards, and it seems overkill to have like a colored tablet on the wall doing just that. Yeah. So I'm looking at e-ink displays, which are very expensive, but they're really cool. And I think must have been on Reddit or somewhere else a couple of weeks ago. I found a project that converts old Amazon Kindle devices and allows you to take a screenshot of something, and then it will upload it to the Kindle and put it as the Kindle's background, I think. So then you could take like a screenshot of a Lovelace card or a Lovelace dashboard and push it to the Amazon Kindle, and it will just display it as a static text. So then you could have, like notifications up on the screen. And because they're e-ink displays, you can have them running on battery for, like months without having to change it, as long as you're not changing the screen every 5 seconds. So that's something I think my wife's got an old Kindle around the house somewhere. I might look into repurposing that.
Yeah, I'm sure she'll love that.
Yeah, totally, right?
Yeah. But no, that's actually a pretty neat idea. You should looking forward to kind of how that works out for you.
Yeah.
Let us know.
And then if it works out well on her old Kindle, then maybe I'll just go and buy like a secondhand, biggest version Kindle. I'm sure they come in like bigger screens. Because I think, I really like the look of e-ink displays, right? I just don't like the price of the panels.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and the nice thing with e-ink, I think what I like about e-ink displays is just how minimal they are.
Yes, yeah.
But again, it is that too, right? As a counter to it, it is minimal. So, but again, to display a button or to display a tile or something, it's more than enough.
Yeah, 100%.
So
cool. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap us up for today. Rohan, thank you very much. I'll see you next time.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
If you want to share your Home Assistant journey or come on as a guest, reach out to us at feedback@hasspodcast.io. That's HASS podcast.io.
The Home Assistant Podcast is hosted by Phil Hawthorne and myself, Rohan Karamandi. For links to topics we discussed today, check out our show notes on hasspodcast.io.